The trap wouldn't open. Sophia pushed harder against the iron jaws, muscles shaking as the metal fought her. The child was crying. The wolves behind her were arguing, and the smell of blood was everywhere. Her panther surged forward inside her chest, claws scraping under her skin. One shift, that was all it would take. Then a hand closed over hers, warm, steady, final. "Don't," the alpha said quietly beside her. Sophia's breath caught, because Gabriel Thorn wasn't stopping her. He was holding her like he already knew exactly how close she was to losing control. And somehow, her panther liked it. Sophia knew the moment she stepped into the open yard that today would go the same way it always did. Not because anyone would say anything to her face, they rarely did. It was the silence that made it obvious, the way conversations thinned when she came near, the way bodies shifted without meaning to. Subtle, practiced, like they'd trained themselves to make room for her without admitting they were afraid. She had been brought into the wolf territory as a cub under old pack obligation. Protected, technically. Accepted was another matter entirely. A pair of younger shifters were sparring near the post line, laughing under their breath until one of them caught sight of her. The laugh died instantly. The other one's eyes flicked to Sophia's hands like she expected claws to appear. Sophia kept her face neutral and walked past them as if she hadn't noticed. She had learned years ago that reacting only made it worse. So she did what she always did. She went to the far end of the yard, where the ground was packed hard and the training dummies stood in a crooked line, old leather and straw stitched back together a dozen times. The place nobody else wanted. Too close to the tree line, too shadowed, too quiet. Perfect. She rolled her shoulders once, loosening tension she hadn't asked for, and reached for the first practice blade on the rack. The weapon was dull, still heavy. Still real enough to bruise if you mishandled it. Sophia liked that. A dull blade didn't care who feared her. It didn't care what blood ran under her skin. It simply demanded control. She lifted it, took a measured stance, and began to move. One step, then another. A clean strike, a turn of her hips. A second strike, harder. The impact thudded into the dummy's chest, and the straw inside shifted with a dull crackle. Sophia breathed out slowly through her nose and forced her focus to stay on the rhythm. Move, breathe, reset. It was the only rhythm that kept her panther contained. She drove the blade into the dummy again, faster this time. Her muscles answered immediately, efficient and controlled. She could feel her panther just under her ribs, awake but contained, a presence that never fully slept. Good, she told herself. Stay there. Do not come forward. It was easier to be feared when she was quiet. It was safer. A wind pushed across the yard, carrying the mixed smells of sweat, trampled earth, wolf musk, and wood smoke from the morning fires. Sophia ignored it, until something else threaded through the air. Steadier, sharper, distinct enough that her breath caught before she could stop it. Wolf, not just any wolf. Alpha. Her grip tightened on the hilt without permission. Her chest hitched, fast and unwelcome, because she hadn't heard him enter. No footsteps, no voice, just that scent sliding in like it belonged there. Sophia made herself complete the strike she'd started, clean and controlled, then lowered the blade slowly and turned her head just enough to confirm what her body already knew. Gabriel. He stood near the center of the yard where the light fell more openly, broad-shouldered and still, his arms crossed loosely over his chest as if he had all the time in the world. The visiting alpha was supposed to be reviewing border security, not standing in the middle of their training yard watching her. He wasn't talking to anyone. He wasn't training. He was simply watching her. Sophia's stomach tightened. Not with fear exactly. She knew how to deal with fear. She'd been dealing with it her whole life. This was something else. That unsettling sensation of being seen too clearly. Because Gabriel wasn't looking at her the way the others did, like she was an accident they'd rather not acknowledge. He didn't look wary. He didn't look disgusted. He didn't look carelessly curious. He looked focused, like he'd been waiting for the moment she'd be alone. Sophia turned back to the dummy and forced her arms to lift again. If she ignored him, maybe he would get bored. Maybe he would remember whatever business had brought him here. Maybe he would... Her panther went quiet. Not the usual stillness she forced on it when she needed control. This was different. This was attention. The sensation slid up her spine, sharp enough that Sophia missed the next strike by an inch. The blade clipped the dummy's shoulder instead of landing clean, and the jolt traveled into her wrist. Sophia froze, grip tightening, jaw set. No, not now. Not because some wolf alpha decided to stare. She steadied her breathing and reset her stance. Behind her, she could feel the weight of his gaze like a hand that wasn't touching her but might as well have been. The yard around them continued, but it dimmed at the edges of Sophia's awareness. Laughter started up again on the far side, cautious and forced, like people were trying to convince themselves everything was normal. It wasn't. Sophia lifted the blade and moved through the next sequence. 1, 2, 3 strikes, clean this time. She refused to look at him again. She refused to let her instincts do anything strange. But when the breeze shifted, Gabriel's scent pushed closer, and Sophia felt it in the back of her throat. Warm, cedar, steel. Something steady underneath it made her panther press nearer to the surface, like it recognized the pattern of him. Sophia's fingers flexed unconsciously. Her skin felt too aware of itself. Something tighter hit, deeper, more dangerous, because it wasn't just that he was watching. Her body was reacting, and she didn't know why. She finished the sequence and stepped back, blade angled down as she forced calm into her posture. If she turned now, if she acknowledged him, she gave him permission to come closer. So she didn't. She reached up, swept loose hair back from her face, and moved toward the weapon rack as if she planned to switch to a heavier blade. Her steps were measured, normal, controlled. She was almost there when a voice cut through the air behind her. Low. Even. Too close. Sophia. Her name from an alpha's mouth landed differently than it should have. Not loud, not demanding. Still, it carried. Sophia stopped with her hand hovering above the rack. She didn't turn yet. She forced herself to breathe once, slow and steady. Then she pivoted, blade still in her grip, her expression blank enough that most people couldn't read what she was thinking. Gabriel was closer than he had been. He hadn't crossed the yard at a normal pace. He'd closed the distance like he belonged in it. No hesitation, no apology, like the space between them had always been his to take. Sophia's pulse bumped once, hard. She kept her stance grounded, feet solid, shoulders relaxed. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. You shouldn't be here, she said, because it was the only thing that came to mind that didn't betray what her instincts were doing. Gabriel's gaze flicked to the blade in her hand and then back to her face. No fear. If anything, his mouth tightened slightly, like he respected it. Why? He asked. Sophia didn't answer immediately, because there were too many reasons and none of them sounded good out loud. Because everyone would rather you weren't seen. Because they don't like what I am. Because if you stand too close to me, they'll start to whisper about you too. Instead, Sophia lifted her chin a fraction. They don't train here, she said. Gabriel's eyes moved past her toward the others. The sparring had slowed. The laughter had faded again. People were watching without admitting they were watching. Gabriel's jaw flexed once, barely. Then he stepped slightly to the side, subtle, deliberate, so his body blocked the line of sight from most of the yard to Sophia. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't aggressive, but it was unmistakably alpha. A quiet claim of space, a silent message to everyone else. Stop staring. Sophia felt it immediately. So did the yard. A few heads turned away. Someone suddenly found their training very interesting. The pressure on Sophia's skin changed, like the world exhaled. Her panther purred low in her chest, barely a sensation, but enough to unsettle her. Because it liked that. It liked him putting himself between her and the pack. Sophia's fingers tightened around the hilt again, fighting the reflex. "Is that what you wanted?" she asked, too sharp. "To make a point?" Gabriel's gaze returned to her, steady and unblinking. "I wanted to see you move," he said. Sophia's throat went dry. That was not what she expected. He said it plainly, like it was the simplest truth in the world. No insult, no hidden threat, just attention. And attention, for Sophia, was dangerous. "You've seen enough," she said, and turned back toward the rack, intending to set the blade down and leave. Before she could, Gabriel spoke again. "Your wrist." Sophia paused. Her breathing hitched, small and involuntary. She hadn't realized she'd shifted her grip after the misstrike, compensating. Gabriel took one step closer. Sophia's shoulders tensed. Her panther rose a fraction. Sophia turned her head, eyes narrowing. "I'm fine." Gabriel didn't stop. He held his hands open at his sides. Not surrender, but permission. A strange gesture for an alpha. "I saw the impact travel through your arm," he said. "You shook it off too fast." Sophia didn't like that he noticed details. She liked it even less that her body reacted to his voice. "Go back to your pack," she said quietly. "You don't need to concern yourself with me." Gabriel's eyes darkened slightly. Not anger, something colder and more certain. "I concern myself with what matters," he said. Sophia's stomach tightened. What matters? The words shouldn't have hit, but they did. Her panther pressed forward again, restless. Sophia tried to step away. Gabriel's hand lifted, fast and controlled, not to grab her, not to restrain her, just to intercept. His fingers closed around her wrist, not hard, just final, firm enough that her body obeyed before her pride could argue. The contact was a shock, not painful, not rough, just immediate. His hand was warm, calloused, the grip of someone who fought and led and wasn't afraid to touch something dangerous. Sophia's breath caught. Her pulse spiked so hard it knocked against her ribs. Her panther surged, not in aggression, but in sudden, hot awareness that flooded her senses. Scent slammed into her. Gabriel's scent at full strength, smoke, cedar, steel, and something beneath it that made her panther go still in a completely different way, like it had been waiting. Sophia's fingers twitched. Her instinct was to pull away. But for 1/2 second, her body didn't want to. Sophia's eyes snapped up to his. Gabriel's gaze was locked on her face, intense and controlled, as if he'd felt the same shift, as if he was measuring her reaction, as if this was confirmation. "Let go," Sophia said, voice tight. Gabriel didn't immediately, and the fact that he paused, just a fraction, felt like dominance without a single raised note, a reminder that he chose when to release. Then his thumb moved once, slow, over the inside of her wrist, like he was checking what he'd already felt. Not a caress, a grounding touch, a deliberate anchor. Sophia's breath hitched again. Her panther practically purred. Sophia hated it. Hated that her own instincts betrayed her. Hated that this alpha's touch made her feel anything but threatened. Gabriel's voice dropped lower. "Your pulse is racing," he said, like it was information he owned. Sophia swallowed, jaw tight. "Because you're holding me," she said, and hated how true it sounded. Gabriel's eyes didn't soften, but something in them shifted anyway. Something intent. "Because you're trying not to," he corrected, quiet, certain, like he could hear the part of her that wasn't speaking. Sophia went perfectly still, because he was right. And because that meant he was paying attention to her in a way no one ever had. Gabriel finally released her wrist. The absence of his hand felt immediate, like cold air rushing into a space that had been warm. Sophia flexed her fingers once, trying to reclaim her control. But her skin remembered him. Gabriel stepped back half a pace, still blocking the yard's view, still keeping her shielded. "You're not injured," he said, as if finishing a simple assessment. "Good." Sophia stared at him, mind racing. "Why are you here?" she demanded, because she needed something to hold on to that wasn't the way her panther kept leaning toward him. Gabriel's gaze flicked to her mouth, then back to her eyes. Just that small motion was enough to send heat through Sophia's chest. His voice stayed even. "I came to speak with you." "I don't have anything to say to an alpha," Sophia replied immediately, because it was safer to be cold than curious. Gabriel's expression didn't change. "I want you to speak with me," he said. Sophia felt the yard shift again. People watching, sensing something without seeing it clearly, sensing an alpha's focus, sensing that something about this was not normal. Sophia's panther didn't care. It wanted to stay. Gabriel's gaze held hers. "Come with me," he said, calm, immovable. "Now." Sophia's stomach dropped. "Why?" Gabriel didn't answer right away. He angled his head slightly, that same deliberate movement from earlier, like he was listening to something deeper than her words. 2 elders were already on the walkway, watching, counting. Then he said, quietly enough that only she could hear, "Because the people who fear you are already deciding what to do with you, and I won't let them decide wrong." Sophia's breath stalled. The world narrowed. Danger slid under her skin, cold and real, because she knew he wasn't guessing. She'd felt it all morning, the glances, the silence, the way the elders watched from the raised walkway like they were measuring her. They hadn't moved against her yet, only because she'd never given them clean cause. Her panther rose, alert and ready, and Gabriel stood there like he'd been built to stop whatever was coming. Sophia forced her voice to work. "What do you mean?" Gabriel's eyes didn't leave hers. "I mean," he said, "you're about to become a problem they think they can solve." He extended his hand, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the heat and the invitation like pressure. Close enough that her panther leaned forward again, hungry for contact. "And I don't intend to let them." Sophia stared at his hand like it was a trap, like it was safety, like it was both. Her pulse kicked hard again, because the worst part wasn't that she was tempted. It was that her panther was already choosing. Sophia's voice came out low, strained. "Gabriel, why are you doing this?" Gabriel's mouth tightened slightly. His answer was quiet, blunt, too loaded to be safe. "Because you matter." Sophia felt something crack inside her chest, small and dangerous, and before she could stop herself, she took one step closer, not enough to touch, enough to feel his scent surround her, enough to feel her panther settle like it had finally found the place it wanted. Gabriel's eyes darkened. He dropped his hand. Then he turned, already expecting her to follow. Sophia should have stayed. She should have walked away. She should have done what she always did, be quiet, be careful, be alone. But as she fell into step behind him, the yard behind them went silent. And Sophia realized something with a slow, sinking clarity. Everyone had noticed. Not the details, not the touch. But the fact that the alpha had come for her, and that meant whatever danger had been brewing in the shadows, was about to step into the open. The moment Sophia stepped beyond the training yard, the air changed. It was subtle. Most wouldn't have noticed. But she had spent her whole life reading small shifts, the way conversations lowered when she passed, the way people pretended not to watch while very carefully watching anyway. Behind her, the yard had gone too quiet. In front of her, Gabriel moved like he expected the path to clear. And it did. Wolves stepped aside without being told. A pair of younger males straightened as he passed, heads dipping slightly in automatic respect. No one questioned why the visiting alpha was walking through the heart of the territory with the panther female half a step behind him. But they noticed. Sophia could feel it along her skin like a change in pressure. A runner crossed the path ahead of them, fast, head down. He saw Gabriel, and veered away so sharply he nearly stumbled. Sophia felt the attention shift, like something had just been reported without words. Gabriel didn't slow. His stride was long, controlled, completely unhurried. The walk of someone who had never once in his life needed to rush to prove authority. Sophia kept pace easily, She had always been larger than most females, longer-limbed, built for power instead of delicacy. Still, she was aware of the distance between them, aware of the space he didn't close, aware of the way her panther kept leaning toward it anyway. Her jaw tightened. Annoying creature. They passed beneath the wooden overhang that led toward the council structures. The shade cooled the sun-warmed air, and Gabriel finally slowed, not fully stopping, just enough that Sophia drew nearly level with him. Too close. His scent pressed in stronger here, less wind to break it apart. There was something steady underneath that made her shoulders loosen before she could stop it. Sophia stiffened immediately, forcing the tension back into place. Gabriel's head turned slightly. He had noticed. Of course he had. "You walk like you expect trouble," he said. Sophia kept her gaze forward. "I usually get it." A quiet beat passed. "I believe that," Gabriel said. No mockery, no disbelief, just calm acceptance. That unsettled her more than anything else he'd done. They rounded the side of the main structure, where foot traffic thinned and the sounds of the yard dulled to a distant hum. Gabriel finally stopped near the edge of the tree line, where the shadows fell thicker and the air smelled more like earth than wolf. Privacy, not complete, but intentional. Sophia folded her arms loosely, keeping the blade still in her grip, a silent reminder that she wasn't unarmed just because he had rank. "You brought me out here to stare at me again?" she asked. Gabriel turned fully toward her. Up close, he was worse. Not because he was intimidating, though he was, but because his focus was absolute. When Gabriel Thorn looked at someone, it was like the rest of the world stopped existing. He studied her face for a long moment, and Sophia fought the instinct to step back. "You don't like being watched," he said. It wasn't a question. Sophia lifted one shoulder slightly. "Most people don't." His gaze sharpened. "Most people don't react the way you do." Heat flickered low in her chest, irritation, sharp and defensive. "Then perhaps," she said evenly, "most people haven't spent their lives being treated like something that might bite." For the first time, something in Gabriel's expression shifted. Not pity, never that. Understanding. The quiet, dangerous kind. His voice lowered. "You've never struck anyone without cause." Sophia's breath paused. That wasn't public knowledge. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You've been asking questions." "I've been paying attention." The simple certainty in his tone landed heavier than it should have. Silence stretched between them. Tight, but not empty. Sophia became acutely aware of how close they were standing, of the way the breeze pushed his scent toward her in slow, steady waves, of the way her panther was no longer restless. It was settled, watching him with an alert calm that made her skin feel too tight. Gabriel's gaze dropped briefly, not in dismissal, but in clear assessment, to the blade still in her hand. "Your grip," he said quietly. "It's compensating." Sophia's fingers flexed involuntarily. Annoyance spiked. Before she could stop him, Gabriel stepped closer, not crowding her, but inside the space most wolves avoided with her, close enough that heat radiated off him, close enough that her pulse picked up again. "Hold still," he said. Not a bark, not a plea, just calm certainty, and her body treated it like law. Sophia absolutely did not obey easily, which was why it irritated her so much when her body stilled anyway. Gabriel reached for her wrist again, this time slower, giving her time to pull back. She didn't, and that was its own answer. His fingers closed around her arm with the same steady firmness as before, like he remembered exactly how she reacted. Warmth spread under her skin where he touched her. Her panther surged forward in sudden, sharp awareness, not defensive, not threatened, interested. Sophia's breathing turned shallow. Gabriel's thumb pressed lightly along the inside of her wrist, testing the joint with careful pressure. "You favor the outer angle when you strike," he said quietly. "It puts strain here." Sophia swallowed. "You don't miss much, do you?" His eyes lifted to hers. No. The word landed between them, heavy with more meaning than it should have carried. Sophia became painfully aware of the way his hand still held her, of the way he hadn't rushed the contact, of the way her pulse kept betraying her. Gabriel's gaze flicked briefly to the base of her throat, where her heartbeat was probably visible. When his thumb shifted slightly against her skin, a slow, deliberate motion meant to check the joint. Sophia's breath caught. Her panther went very, very still. Gabriel froze for half a second. He felt it. That subtle change in her body. His voice dropped lower. "Does that hurt?" Sophia forced her lungs to work. "No." It came out tighter than she intended. Gabriel didn't release her immediately. Instead, his grip adjusted, not restraining, not claiming, but steadying, grounding, like he was testing something he didn't fully understand yet. Sophia's fingers twitched. Her instincts warred hard, part of her screaming to step back, to put distance between them before this strange pull got worse. And another part of her, the deeper part, the older part, wanted to stay exactly where she was. Gabriel's eyes darkened slightly, as if he was coming to the same realization. When he finally let go, the absence of his hand felt immediate and unwelcome. Sophia curled her fingers into her palm, trying to shake off the sensation. "This was unnecessary," she said, though the words lacked their usual bite. Gabriel studied her for another long moment. "No," he said quietly. "It wasn't." From the direction of the lower path, a door slammed, hard enough that birds lifted from the trees. Gabriel's head turned first. Sophia's panther rose under her ribs like it had been waiting for a reason. Before Sophia could decide whether to challenge him further, raised voices carried across the compound. Sharp, overlapping, wrong. And in the middle of it, a child's frightened cry cut through the air. Sophia's entire body went rigid. Her panther drove forward hard enough to steal her breath. Gabriel's gaze snapped back to her face, and this time, he looked like he had just found exactly what he'd been waiting for. Sophia didn't wait to see what the crowd meant. The child's cry cut straight through her like a blade, and her body moved before her mind finished forming a thought. She was already stepping toward the lower path when Gabriel's hand caught her forearm, fast, controlled, not stopping her so much as anchoring her for half a heartbeat. "Sophia," he said, low and steady. She snapped her gaze to his. The contact should have annoyed her. It should have made her pull away. Instead, her panther went sharply alert and then settled into him, like his grip was a point of balance in the rush. Sophia hated that. "What happened?" she demanded, voice tight. Gabriel didn't answer with speculation. He didn't look away from the path. He listened. His head tilted slightly, the way it had in the training yard, as if he could sort voices by tone alone. Then he released her, and his body shifted in front of hers by a fraction, an instinctive placement that made it clear he intended to take the first hit if anything came out of that cluster. "Stay close," he said. It wasn't a request. Sophia's pulse kicked hard at the quiet certainty in it. Then he moved, and Sophia moved with him. They cut down the path at a brisk, controlled pace. Wolves turned as they passed, eyes widening. The sight of Gabriel Thorn moving with purpose drew attention like heat draws hands. Sophia kept her face blank. Inside, everything was sharpening. The closer they got, the clearer the scene became. A knot of bodies pressed together near the small storage shed at the edge of the compound. Voices overlapped, angry, anxious, sharp with the kind of fear that made people stupid. Someone shoved another shoulder first. A female snapped, "Don't touch him." A male barked back, "He shouldn't have been there." And through it all, a small, thin sound, half sob, half gasp, like someone trying not to panic and failing. Gabriel's shoulders squared as they reached the edge of the group. His presence hit the crowd like a wave. Wolves stepped back without realizing they were doing it. A few lowered their eyes immediately. Others hesitated, still caught in their own agitation, until Gabriel spoke. "Move." One word, no shout, no threat. Just authority, clean and absolute. Bodies shifted, space opened. Sophia's gaze snapped to the center. A boy, too young to be training, too small to be out here alone, was pressed against the shed wall, face pale and streaked with dirt. His arms were pinned awkwardly to his sides by two older youths who looked more panicked than cruel, like they'd grabbed him to stop him running and hadn't known what else to do. The boy's eyes were wide, fixed on the ground near Sophia's feet. Something dark and wet stained the dirt. Blood. Sophia's breath caught. Her panther rose hard, claws scraping inside her skin. Then she saw it. A trap, not the kind meant for rabbits. Iron jaws half buried in the earth, springs thick with old rust, teeth sunk into the boy's ankle. The metal had bitten clean through the leather of his boot. Blood soaked the seam. The boy's mouth trembled. "It hurts," he whispered, voice cracked. A cold, bright stillness filled Sophia's head. The world narrowed to two things, the child and the trap. Everything else became background noise. "Let him go," Sophia said. The youths looked at her like they'd been caught holding a live flame. One of them stammered, We were trying to, he was running and—" "Let him go." Her voice didn't rise, but something in it changed. The youths released him immediately, stumbling back a step as if her words had shoved them. The boy's knees buckled. Sophia caught him before he hit the ground. Her hands were sure, one supporting his shoulders, the other steadying his back. The child was light, too light. His whole body shook. Sophia lowered him carefully, placing him in a seated position against the wall so he wouldn't fall over. His small fingers clutched her sleeve like he was afraid she'd disappear. The boy's eyes flicked once to the wolves around him, then back to Sophia, like he'd already decided who was safer. The contact hit her unexpectedly, sharp and intimate. Her chest tightened. It was always like this. Adults could hate her, packs could fear her, but children always sensed what was real. They always had, even when the wolves never quite did. Sophia's panther surged with a protective rush so strong it blurred the edge of her vision. She forced herself to breathe through it. "Look at me," she said softly to the boy, keeping her tone steady. "What's your name?" His lips trembled. "Eli." "Eli," Sophia repeated, locking her gaze on his. "I need you to hold very still. Do you understand? I'm going to get that off you." Eli nodded quickly, tears spilling down his cheeks. Sophia's jaw clenched. Who put traps this close to the compound? Not careless. Intentional. Someone with patrol knowledge. She leaned in, eyes narrowing as she studied the mechanism. The trap was old but maintained. Someone had oiled parts of it. Someone had hidden it well. This wasn't an accident. Behind her, the crowd murmured again, tension building. A female voice hissed, "That's why he shouldn't have been out there." A male muttered, "If it was set for her." Sophia didn't turn, but she felt the words land on her back like stones. Her panther bared its teeth inside her. The urge to shift flashed hot and immediate, violent strength pressing against her skin, begging to come forward. Sophia swallowed hard and forced herself to stay in control. Not here, not in front of them, not with a child shaking in her hands. A shadow fell across the trap. Gabriel crouched beside her, close enough that his scent wrapped around her like a barrier. He didn't speak immediately. He took in the trap, the blood, the boy's face, the way Sophia's hands were steady even as her eyes went darker. Then his gaze lifted to the crowd. And when he spoke, his voice cut through every whisper like a blade. "Who set this?" Silence snapped tight. No one answered. Gabriel's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't look at them like an alpha addressing his pack. He looked at them like a judge. "Answer," he said, still calm, still controlled. But the air shifted around him, heavy with something dangerous. The two youths who had been holding the boy exchanged panicked looks. One of them swallowed hard. We don't know. We found him like this. He was screaming. Gabriel's gaze held him for a beat too long. Then he looked back down, voice lower. Is he going to lose his foot? Sophia's hands tightened briefly. No, she said, immediate and certain. Gabriel's eyes flicked to hers, sharp. You're sure? I'm sure, Sophia repeated, because she had to be. For Eli, for herself, for control. She reached for the trap mechanism. The iron jaw was dug into the boot at an angle. If she released it wrong, the spring could snap back and bite deeper, crush bone. Her Panther edged closer to the surface, craving strength, craving speed. Sophia breathed in slowly, forcing herself not to shake. Gabriel shifted closer. His shoulder brushed hers. Not comfort. Placement. A shield that also said, "She's not yours to corner." The crowd's presence faded as his body blocked most of their view. Sophia noticed the difference immediately. She didn't thank him. She couldn't. Not with a child's blood on her hands. Eli, she said softly, I need you to do something brave for me. Can you do that? Eli sobbed but nodded too fast. Good, Sophia said. Look at Gabriel. The boy's eyes flicked up. Gabriel leaned in slightly, his expression hard but not cruel. Eli, he said, voice low and steady. Breathe with me. In, out, good, again. Eli's shaking breaths began to match Gabriel's pace. A thin thread of control returned. Sophia's throat tightened. She hadn't expected that. Gabriel wasn't just watching. He was helping. Her Panther went still again, that same wrong stillness, like it approved. Sophia focused on the mechanism, fingers finding the tension point, the release latch half buried in dirt. She shifted her weight, bracing, and pressed down with controlled force. The spring fought her. The iron jaw resisted. Sophia's muscles tightened, strength building, her body straining against the steel. It should have been enough. It wasn't. The trap was strong, too strong. A flash of frustration sparked. Her Panther lunged forward under her ribs, and for a single split second, Sophia felt the line inside her, thin, brittle, beginning to crack. Her vision sharpened, sounds sharpened, the scent of blood, iron, wolf, earth, all intensifying at once. Her Panther pressed forward so hard it almost stole her skin. Sophia's breath hitched. Gabriel's hand closed over hers, firm, warm, like he was taking the strain with her without asking permission. He didn't grab her wrist this time. He covered her hand, palm to palm, bracing her grip against the trap lever. The contact hit like a jolt, heat and power and something steady. Gabriel's voice dropped low enough that only she could hear. Don't shift, he said, low and close, like he could feel the exact second she tipped. Sophia's jaw clenched. I wasn't going to. Gabriel's thumb pressed once, deliberate against her knuckles. Yes, he said quietly. You were. Sophia's chest tightened, anger flaring sharp, and then dying just as fast because he was right. Her Panther was hungry. It wanted the strength. It wanted the violence. And worst of all, it wanted him right here with it. Sophia's breath trembled. Gabriel leaned closer, his shoulder fully against hers now, blocking her from the crowd's gaze. You're not alone, he said, voice steady. Do it again. And his grip held like an anchor. Sophia swallowed hard. She pressed down again, using his braced grip as leverage. The mechanism shifted. The iron jaw opened a fraction. Eli whimpered. Gabriel's voice stayed even, grounding him. In, out, that's it. Sophia's muscles shook with controlled effort. She forced her focus to stay narrow. The latch gave. The iron jaw sprang open. Sophia moved instantly, sliding the boy's boot free with careful speed. Eli let out a broken sob, collapsing forward. Sophia caught him again, hands steady, pulling him close just long enough to keep him from falling onto the trap. The moment his weight hit her, something inside her softened painfully. She held him like he was her own, like that was what she had been made for. Gabriel's hand remained on hers for half a second longer than necessary. Then he released and turned his head sharply toward the crowd. "Get a healer!" someone barked. Sophia's head snapped up. A wolf female pushed forward, older, quick, already kneeling with cloth in hand. Sophia's body tensed instinctively, protective and wary. The healer's eyes flicked to Sophia's face, then to Gabriel, then to the child. She hesitated. Sophia felt it, that old pattern of fear and suspicion. Gabriel's voice cut through it. "She stays," he said. The healer froze. A few wolves murmured. Gabriel rose to his full height, and the crowd shifted again, instinctively leaning back. His eyes were dark, his presence absolute. "You want him treated," he said, calm and cold. "You'll stop acting like she is the danger." Silence slammed down. The healer swallowed, then nodded quickly, hands moving again. Eli clung to Sophia's sleeve. His small fingers were trembling. Sophia looked down at him. He looked up with wet eyes and whispered, "You saved me." Her throat tightened so hard she couldn't answer. She could only nod once, controlled. As the healer wrapped the ankle and pressed cloth to the wound, the boy turned his face into Sophia's side like he trusted her more than the wolves around him. And the crowd saw it. Every one of them. The murmurs started again. Quiet, uneasy, resentful. Someone muttered, "He shouldn't be touching her." Another voice, sharper, "She's too close. What if—" Sophia's panther lifted its head inside her. A low, dangerous warning rolled through her chest. She fought it down. She couldn't afford to lose control. Not now, not when they were already looking for reasons. Gabriel's gaze turned toward the sound. It was like watching a blade slowly angle toward a target. He didn't snarl. He didn't shout. He simply took one step forward. And in that step, the entire crowd shifted back again, the way wolves do when they sense the alpha has stopped tolerating foolishness. "Enough," Gabriel said. The word landed heavy. He scanned faces one by one until the murmurs died. Then he looked back down at the trap, still gaping in the dirt, and his voice dropped lower. "This wasn't set for a child." No one spoke. Sophia's heartbeat thudded once, hard. Gabriel's gaze flicked to her, and in his eyes, Sophia saw something that made her stomach drop. Recognition. Not of the trap, of what it meant, of who it was meant for. Gabriel crouched again, inspecting the trap with a careful, practiced eye. His fingers touched the chain, the stake, the placement in the dirt. Then he stood, slowly. And when he straightened, the air around him changed. The calm remained. But something underneath it sharpened into something cold and final. He turned to the crowd. "This territory has a problem," Gabriel said evenly. A few wolves swallowed, uneasy. Gabriel's gaze didn't soften. "And I don't like problems that target children." Sophia's panther surged again, protective anger flaring hot and restless. She felt it press against her skin, demanding release. Gabriel's hand reached back without looking, and his fingers found Sophia's wrist. A firm, steady hold, not restraining, anchoring, like he could feel exactly how close she was to slipping. And the worst part was how quickly her body accepted it. Her panther went still, settled, calmed by him. Sophia's eyes snapped to his hand, then to his face. He didn't look at her. His focus stayed on the crowd. But his grip tightened once, a silent message meant only for her. "I've got you." Sophia hated that her chest warmed at it, hated that she wanted to believe it. Gabriel's voice lowered. "I'm going to find who did this," he said. "And when I do," he stopped. Just long enough for every wolf listening to feel the weight of what he hadn't said. Then he finished calmly. "They'll never set foot on this ground again." A shiver ran through the crowd. Not fear of him hurting someone without cause. Fear of the certainty that he would, if the cause was a child, if the cause was Sophia. Sophia's breath caught, because she realized something sharp and sudden. Gabriel wasn't just stepping in. He was taking ownership of the situation, of the danger, of her, and that would make the pack turn on her harder. The healer finished wrapping the boy's ankle. Eli whimpered, exhausted. Sophia eased her grip slightly, letting him lean against the wall while the healer checked the bandage. Gabriel finally turned, his gaze landing on Sophia with the same intense focus as before. But now there was something else in it, something heavier. He looked at her like he had just seen exactly what she was built for. Not a threat, not a problem, a protector. And it didn't soften him, it sharpened him. "We're leaving," Gabriel said quietly. Sophia blinked, startled. "What?" He didn't repeat himself. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, giving her every chance to move. She didn't. Sophia's pulse spiked. "Where?" she demanded, keeping her voice low, refusing to sound like she was asking permission. Gabriel's eyes held hers. "To speak with your elders," he said, "and then to secure you. A locked door, 2 of my wolves on it. No one touches you without going through me." The words hit like a blow. Secure you. Like she was valuable. Like she was a target. Like she was something he intended to keep safe whether anyone agreed or not. Sophia's instinct was to refuse, to snap back, to remind him she didn't belong to anyone. But then Eli's small fingers caught her sleeve again, weak and trusting. And Sophia remembered the trap, the chain, the blood. The realization that it hadn't been meant for him. It had been meant for something large, something rare, something feared. Her. Sophia's throat tightened. She looked back at the crowd, at the faces watching her, at the eyes that didn't hold gratitude. Only calculation, only suspicion, only fear. And Sophia knew in that cold, clear instant, if she stayed alone in this territory tonight, something worse than a trap would find her. Gabriel extended his hand again, not touching her yet, just offering, close enough that his scent wrapped around her like a promise. Sophia stared at his hand, pulse hammering, her panther pressing forward in restless agreement. She didn't trust him, not fully. But she trusted the one thing her instincts had never done before. Her panther didn't want to run. It wanted to stand with him. Sophia took a slow breath. Then, without looking at anyone else, she stepped forward and placed her hand in Gabriel's. The moment their skin met, the air tightened. Gabriel's fingers closed around hers, firm, steady, unmistakably alpha. And he led her away as the crowd watched in dead silence. Sophia didn't look back, but she felt the shift behind her, felt the moment her life stopped being quiet, felt the moment she became a problem everyone could see. And as Gabriel guided her toward the council hall, his grip never loosened, like he already knew what the pack would do next, and he intended to be in the way. The walk to the council hall felt shorter than Sophia remembered. Or maybe it only felt that way because Gabriel never let go of her hand. Not tight, not dragging, just firm enough that the contact never broke. With every step they took, the awareness between them sharpened. Wolves moved out of their path quickly now. Word had already started to spread. Sophia could feel it in the way conversations cut off mid-sentence, in the way eyes followed the line of Gabriel's shoulders and then dropped to where his hand still held hers. He wasn't hiding it. He wasn't making a show of it either, which somehow made it worse, more deliberate, more intentional. Sophia kept her chin level and her expression neutral, but inside her nerves were stretched too thin. Her panther was quiet, too quiet, not restless, not agitated, settled, as if walking at an alpha's side, his scent wrapped around her, his grip steady on her hand. Made perfect sense. Sophia did not like that. They reached the wide steps leading to the council structure. The heavy wooden doors stood partially open, shadows pooling just beyond the threshold. Gabriel finally slowed. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then his thumb shifted once against the back of her hand. The small motion sent sharp awareness up her arm. Sophia's breath shortened before she could stop it. Gabriel's head turned slightly, his gaze flicking down to her face. He noticed. Of course he noticed. "You're tense," he said quietly. Sophia resisted the urge to pull her hand free. "You're holding me," she replied. A beat passed. His grip did not loosen. "You haven't asked me to stop," Gabriel said. Heat flickered low in her chest, irritation first, then something more complicated. Sophia's fingers flexed in his hold. "I don't need to ask," she said evenly. "You already know I don't trust you." Gabriel's mouth curved slightly, not amused, not offended. Something more thoughtful. "That's not what I'm watching for," he said. The answer unsettled her more than it should have. Before she could press him on it, movement inside the council hall drew their attention. Two elder wolves stood near the long table at the far end of the chamber. Both of them were already watching the doorway, watching Sophia, watching Gabriel. The air inside the hall felt heavier, older, judging. Gabriel stepped forward, guiding Sophia with him without tightening his grip. He did not announce himself. He did not bow his head. He simply walked in like the space belonged to him. The elders straightened. One of them, gray-haired, sharp-eyed, spoke first. "Alpha Thorn," he said carefully. "We weren't informed you intended to bring company." The pause before the last word was deliberate. Sophia felt it like a blade sliding between her ribs. Gabriel gave no sign. "She's with me," he said. Simple, final. The elder's gaze shifted to Sophia, measuring and cool. "That is precisely what concerns us." Sophia's spine stiffened. Before she could speak, Gabriel's hand tightened slightly around hers, a quiet pressure that felt less like restraint and more like warning. "Stay. Let me handle this." Sophia's jaw set. She did not need an alpha to speak for her. And yet, she stayed silent. Because something in Gabriel's posture had changed. He wasn't posturing. He wasn't negotiating. He was positioning. The second elder stepped forward, voice smoother but no less wary. "The trap incident was unfortunate," he said. "But surely you don't believe it was meant for her." Sophia's pulse spiked. Gabriel's expression went very still. "Don't I?" he said quietly. The room cooled. The elders exchanged a brief look. The first one folded his hands behind his back. "Panther lines have always inspired caution," he said. "You know the history." Sophia did know the history. She'd been living inside it since the wolves took her in. Her fingers curled instinctively. There it was, the thing no one liked to say plainly. Dangerous, unpredictable, too much. "For everyone's safety," the elder continued smoothly, "we already doubled the night watch on the outer barracks. If she shifts, she will be contained." Sophia's panther surged forward, anger flashing hot and immediate. Her vision sharpened at the edges. Her pulse roared once in her ears. The old, familiar pressure built under her skin, the dangerous urge to prove exactly why they feared her. Gabriel moved before she did. His body shifted half a step in front of hers. Not blocking, shielding. His voice dropped, cold. "Careful," Gabriel said, and the room understood it as a warning. The elder's mouth closed. Gabriel's presence expanded. Not loud, not aggressive, but unmistakably alpha. Controlled dominance, coiled and precise. "You will not provoke her," Gabriel said quietly. "Not while I'm between you and her." The room went very still. Sophia's breath came in sharper pulls. Her panther paced hard under her skin, restless and angry and far too aware of the way Gabriel had stepped between her and the elders without hesitation, without permission, without apology. Her fingers tightened in his grip. He didn't release her, didn't even look back. He simply stood there like a wall that had decided to move. The second elder raised his hands slightly in a calming gesture. "No one is provoking anyone," he said carefully. "We are simply discussing risks." Gabriel's head tilted slightly. "And I'm telling you," he said, voice still low and even, "you're looking at the wrong one." The words hit Sophia square in the chest. Her breath stalled, because he believed it, not as a tactic, not as politics. He believed she wasn't the threat. Something inside her shifted uncomfortably. The elder studied Gabriel for a long moment, then exhaled slowly. "You're involving yourself very deeply in this matter, Alpha Thorn. You have influence here because your patrols guard our eastern line," the elder added coolly. "Don't confuse leverage with rule." Gabriel didn't so much as blink. "I'm not here to rule," he said evenly. "I'm here to stop rot." Silence held. The elder's eyes flicked between them, to their joined hands, to Sophia's face, back to Gabriel. Understanding dawned slowly, and with it, concern. "This conversation," he said at last, "is clearly not finished." Gabriel's grip on Sophia's hand eased slightly, not releasing, just adjusting. "We'll continue it," he said, "after I've secured her quarters." Sophia blinked. Her head snapped toward him. "Excuse me." Gabriel finally looked at her fully. Up close, his gaze was intense enough to make her chest tighten again. "You're not sleeping in the outer barracks tonight," he said quietly. Sophia's spine stiffened. "I didn't ask." "No," Gabriel agreed calmly. "You didn't." Infuriating, controlled, certain. Her pulse jumped. "I can handle myself," Sophia said, low and sharp. Gabriel's eyes darkened slightly. "I know you can." The words were immediate, certain, and somehow that made it worse. Because he wasn't dismissing her strength. He was factoring it in. "And you're still not staying out there tonight," he finished. Sophia's jaw tightened hard enough to ache. Her first instinct was to refuse. Flat out. Walk away. Remind him she didn't belong under anyone's protection. But then, the trap flashed in her mind. The chain, the blood, the quiet calculation in the elder's eyes. Her panther stirred uneasily, not afraid, alert. Gabriel's thumb moved once more against her hand. A slow, grounding stroke that sent another unwanted ripple of awareness through her. His voice dropped lower. "Walk with me," he said. Not a command, not quite a request, but close enough to both that Sophia's chest tightened. The elders watched them in heavy silence, waiting, measuring. Sophia held Gabriel's gaze for one long moment, then, slowly. She nodded once. Gabriel didn't smile, didn't comment. He simply turned, already expecting her to follow, and guided her back toward the door. His hand never left hers. And as they stepped out of the council hall, Sophia realized with slow, sinking certainty, whatever line had existed between her and this alpha, they had just crossed it. Gabriel did not lead Sophia to the outer barracks. He took her through a narrow side passage that ran behind the council hall, past storage rooms and quiet corridors where the air smelled of old wood and smoke. Fewer eyes, fewer whispers. Still, Sophia felt the attention even when she couldn't see it, pack awareness clinging to her like burrs. Gabriel's grip on her hand never loosened. It should have made her furious. It should have made her dig in her heels and demand space. Instead, her panther stayed quiet and watchful, as if the contact was the only stable thing in a day that had started to tilt. They stopped at a heavy door set apart from the rest, farther from the main sleeping areas. Gabriel lifted his free hand and pushed it open without knocking. Inside was a small chamber, plain, functional, warmed by a low hearth. A narrow bed. A table, a wash basin. No luxury. But it was private. It was safe, and it smelled faintly like wolf. Sophia froze in the doorway. Gabriel's gaze flicked to her face. "You don't like it," he said. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." Sophia's jaw tightened. The scent in here was older than him, embedded in the wood, in the bedding. It felt like a claim that wasn't his, but it still set something in her chest on edge. Gabriel stepped inside first, then turned back and held his hand out again. Not pulling, not forcing, simply offering. Sophia stared at it, pulse hammering, then placed her hand in his. The moment their skin met, her panther stirred hard, like it recognized a thread it had been following all day. Gabriel's fingers closed around hers, and he guided her fully into the room. Then he shut the door, The latch sliding into place was a small sound, but it made the space feel suddenly too intimate. Sophia's breath shortened. She pulled her hand back gently this time, forcing the contact to break before her instincts decided to cling. Gabriel watched her do it without reacting. That was worse. He should have challenged her. He should have been annoyed. Instead, he simply leaned back against the door, arms folding loosely, and studied her the way he had in the yard. Only now there was nowhere for her to escape his focus. Sophia moved to the center of the room and turned to face him, keeping distance on purpose. "What is this?" she demanded. Gabriel's head tilted slightly. "A room. You know what I mean." A quiet second passed. Then Gabriel answered, calm and blunt. "It's protection." Sophia scoffed softly, refusing to let him see how much the word hit. "I don't need protection." Gabriel's gaze held hers. "I watched you keep control while a child bled in your hands," he said. "I watched you fight your instincts and still stay gentle." Sophia's throat tightened unexpectedly. She didn't speak. Gabriel continued, voice steady. "And I watched your elders look at you like you were the problem." Anger flared, hot and sharp. "They always do." Gabriel's eyes darkened slightly. "Not anymore," he said. The certainty in his tone made Sophia's pulse kick hard. "You can't decide that," she snapped. Gabriel pushed off the door and took one step forward, not closing the full distance, just enough to shift the air between them. "I can," he said quietly, "and I have." Her panther surged with restless heat. Her body went too aware of the space, of him, of the fact that his scent was stronger here, trapped in the room like smoke. Sophia's fingers curled into her palm. She forced herself not to step back. "You don't even know me," she said, voice tight. Gabriel's gaze dropped briefly to her throat, then returned to her eyes. "I know what you are," he said. Sophia flinched internally, because everyone knew what she was, and they feared it. But Gabriel's voice didn't carry fear. It carried respect. "You're a protector," he said, "and you've spent your whole life being punished for it." The words landed like a fist. Sophia's breath caught. Her guard wavered for half a second. Gabriel saw it. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate. Sophia held her ground, even as her body begged her to move. When he stopped, he was within arm's reach. Close enough that his warmth reached her. Close enough that his scent surrounded her fully. Sophia swallowed hard. Her panther pressed forward like it wanted to rub against him. Ridiculous. Unacceptable. Sophia forced her voice steady. "Why are you here?" she asked, quieter now. "Really?" Gabriel didn't answer immediately. Instead, his gaze held hers with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Then he said, low and controlled, "Because the moment I saw you, something in me locked in, and it hasn't unlocked since." Sophia's pulse jumped. "What does that mean?" she demanded, but her voice betrayed her, too thin, too strained. Gabriel's jaw flexed once. "It means I've been fighting my wolf since I arrived, and I'm done pretending it isn't winning." The admission hit Sophia hard, not because it sounded romantic, because it sounded dangerous, because it sounded inevitable. Sophia's breath shortened, her panther locked in place, listening. Sophia forced a laugh that didn't quite land. "You're an alpha," she said. "You can have anyone." Gabriel's gaze sharpened. "I don't want anyone." Sophia's stomach dropped. The air between them tightened. Gabriel's voice lowered, even more controlled. "I want you." The words didn't feel like a line. They felt like a verdict. Sophia's panther surged forward so sharply her skin tingled, heat rushing through her veins, like her body was trying to shift into something that could handle this. Sophia clenched her jaw hard, refusing. "Stop," she said. Gabriel didn't move, didn't push, but he didn't soften either. "No," he said quietly. "I won't." Sophia's heart hammered. She hated how much her body reacted to his refusal, hated how his calm dominance made her want to lean in instead of run. "You don't get to say that," she said, voice breaking at the edges. Gabriel's eyes held hers. I do, he said, because I'm not asking to want you. I already do. Sophia inhaled sharply. For a moment, she couldn't speak. The room felt too small. His scent was everywhere. Cedar, steel, and that steady warmth, that steady underlying warmth that made her panther settle like it had found its answer. Sophia shook her head once, hard. This doesn't make sense, she whispered. Gabriel's gaze softened just a fraction. Not weakness, patience. It does, he said. You're just not ready to accept it. Sophia's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, to snap something cruel and force distance. Instead, the truth slipped out, small and furious. My panther likes you, she said, as if accusing him. A quiet beat. Then Gabriel's mouth curved slightly, something warmer. I know, he said. Sophia's eyes narrowed. How? Gabriel stepped closer by a fraction, closing the last inch of distance without touching her. Because it hasn't tried to kill me, he said simply. Sophia's breath hitched despite herself. Her panther stirred again, almost offended at being called out. Gabriel's gaze dropped to her hands. Then he lifted his own slowly, giving her time to flinch away. Sophia didn't. His fingers brushed the back of her knuckles, light, deliberate. A touch that asked, not demanded. Sophia's skin lit up under the contact. Her heartbeat jumped. Her panther leaned into it so hard it made her dizzy. Sophia swallowed. Gabriel, she warned. Gabriel's eyes lifted to hers. His voice was low, controlled. I'm going to touch you, he said, and you're going to tell me if you want me to stop. His voice made it sound like he meant it. Sophia exhaled unevenly. That was unfair, because he was giving her choice while making it clear he wasn't afraid. Sophia's jaw tightened. You're sure you should be this close, she whispered. Gabriel's gaze darkened. I'm sure, he said. His hand lifted and settled at her wrist, firm, steady, like he'd learned exactly where to hold her to steady more than her body. Only now it wasn't about control. It was about connection. His thumb moved once, slow, on the inside of her wrist. Sophia's breath caught sharply. Her knees almost betrayed her. Her panther went still in a way that felt like satisfaction. Sophia hated it and wanted more. She didn't move, didn't pull away. Gabriel watched her face closely, tracking every small change. Then he leaned in slightly, close enough that his breath warmed the side of her cheek, close enough that his scent flooded her senses. I can smell it, he murmured. You're fighting yourself. Sophia's eyes snapped to his. You're imagining things. Gabriel's grip tightened slightly, not hurting, just claiming space. I'm not, he said. Your body is already answering. Sophia's pulse hammered, furious and exposed. Her voice came out low and raw. Then why does it feel wrong? Gabriel's gaze held hers, unwavering. Because no one has ever chosen you out loud, he said quietly. They've made you earn air in your own home. The words landed deep. Too deep. Sophia blinked hard. For half a second, her control slipped. And Gabriel saw it. His hand moved, slow, deliberate, and cupped the side of her jaw, not forcing her head, just holding her steady. The touch sent a jolt through Sophia's spine. Her panther surged forward with a low, hungry warmth. Sophia's breath hitched. She stared at him, too close now to pretend this wasn't happening. Gabriel's voice dropped. If I tell you what I think you are to me, he said, will you run? Sophia's throat tightened. She wanted to say yes. That was the safe answer. The answer that kept her in control. But her panther was already pressing against the inside of her skin like it wanted to step into his space and stay there. Sophia forced a breath. I don't know, she admitted, barely audible. Gabriel's eyes darkened, something fierce flashing behind the control. He didn't kiss her, didn't take what he could. He held the line like he was proving something. He didn't claim her mouth. Instead, he lowered his forehead toward hers until they were almost touching, close enough that the heat between them felt unbearable, and he spoke the words into that thin space. "You're my mate." Sophia went completely still. The world seemed to tilt. Her panther didn't panic. It didn't fight. It went quiet in a way that felt like relief, like it had been waiting for permission to stop resisting. Sophia's chest tightened hard. "No," she whispered, because if she accepted it, everything changed. Gabriel's thumb stroked once at her jaw, slow and steady. "Yes," he said. Sophia's breath shook. Her voice cracked, angry and desperate. "You don't understand what that means for me." Gabriel's eyes held hers. "I understand exactly," he said quietly. "It means they'll come for you harder." Sophia froze, because he wasn't pretending this was easy. He wasn't promising comfort without cost. He was naming the danger, and still choosing her. Gabriel's hand slid from her jaw to her shoulder, firm, protective. "I'm not leaving you to it," he said. Sophia's throat tightened. Her panther surged with fierce agreement. Sophia shook her head once, panic rising. "You can't just say that and expect—" A knock struck the door, hard, urgent. Gabriel's entire posture changed in an instant, alpha focus snapping outward. His hand stayed on Sophia's shoulder, anchoring her. "Stay behind me," he said. Sophia's pulse spiked. The knock came again, louder, a voice through the wood, strained and fast. "Alpha Thorn, someone's taken the boy." Sophia's blood went cold. Eli. Her panther slammed forward so hard it stole her breath, claws scraping under her skin, fury and fear detonating together. Gabriel's hand tightened on her shoulder. His voice turned deadly calm. "Who?" he asked. The answer came, shaking. "One of the elders' guards. He said the panther female caused it. He said the child needs to be questioned." Sophia's vision sharpened, edges darkening, interrogated, blamed, used. Gabriel's gaze snapped to Sophia's face. For a split second, she saw it, pure protective fury, controlled only by discipline. Then Gabriel turned, opened the door, and stepped into the hall. He did not release her. He kept her close as he moved, and when he spoke, his voice carried down the corridor like a promise. "They touch him again," Gabriel said, calm and lethal. "And I stopped being polite." Gabriel moved fast, not rushed, not reckless, controlled speed, long, purposeful strides that ate the corridor. Sophia kept pace easily, but her heartbeat drove hard enough to sharpen the edges of her vision. Eli. Her panther was fully awake now, pacing under her skin, every instinct locked on the memory of the boy's small, shaking hands. Gabriel's scent sharpened beside her, cedar and cold iron edged with anger, and something darker now, cold, focused. They rounded the corner near the lower holding rooms, and voices carried ahead, tense, overlapping, defensive. "Told you she was too close to him." "Orders from the elder. Just precaution." Gabriel didn't slow. The moment they came into view, the wolves near the doorway stiffened. One of the guards stepped forward automatically, shoulders squaring like obedience was optional. "Alpha Thorn, this isn't— Move!" One word, flat, final, the kind that didn't get repeated. The guard hesitated, half a second too long. Gabriel took a single step forward. He didn't bare teeth. He didn't raise his voice, but the pressure of him tightened the air. Alpha presence turning warning into consequence. The guard moved. Fast. Inside the holding room, Eli sat on a low bench, pale and frightened. His bandaged ankle stretched stiffly in front of him. Two guards stood nearby, too close, too watchful. Sophia's focus narrowed. Her panther hit the front of her skin with a violent protective snap that nearly stole her breath. She took one step. Gabriel's hand closed around her wrist. Firm, grounding, not stopping her, steadying her. "Easy," he said quietly. The words slid through her panic like a restraint she hadn't agreed to wear. Sophia pulled in a sharp breath. Her panther snarled, but held. Barely. Gabriel released her and stepped fully into the room. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The guards straightened. One swallowed. "Alpha Thorn," he said carefully. "You were instructed," Gabriel said evenly, "to terrify an injured child." Silence dropped heavy. The guard's jaw tightened. "He needs to answer questions. The elder believes the Panther female may have influenced—" The words never finished, because Gabriel stepped forward, not fast, not wild, just enough. And something in his posture changed so completely that both guards instinctively took a step back. Sophia felt it down to her bones. Predator. Alpha. Unmovable. Gabriel's voice lowered. "You will release him." The second guard hesitated, torn between obedience and survival. "We have orders." Gabriel's gaze went cold. "So do I." The room locked down into stillness. For one long second, no one moved. Then Eli's small voice broke the tension, thin and shaking. "I didn't do anything." The sound hit Sophia like a blade. Her control pulled tight. She moved. Gabriel didn't stop her this time. Sophia crossed the room in 2 quick steps and dropped to one knee in front of Eli, her movements careful despite the fury burning under her skin. "Hey," she said softly, her voice completely different now, gentle, steady. "You're all right. I've got you." Eli's small fingers grabbed her sleeve immediately. Relief flooded his face, raw and immediate. "They said I wasn't supposed to talk to you," he whispered. Sophia's jaw tightened. Behind her, Gabriel's voice turned dangerous. "Is that so?" The guards shifted uneasily. The first one exhaled slowly. "We were told to separate them." Gabriel stepped closer, close enough that the air thickened with warning. "And you thought frightening him was the way to do that?" It wasn't a question. Neither guard answered. Gabriel's patience ended. "You're done here," he said. The authority in his voice left no room for argument. The guards exchanged one last look. Then, slowly, they stepped back, yielding. Sophia didn't wait. She slid one arm carefully around Eli's shoulders, supporting him as he leaned heavily into her side. The boy's breathing was still unsteady, his scent sharp with fear. Sophia's Panther pressed forward with a low, protective rumble that vibrated through her chest. Gabriel noticed. Of course he did. His gaze softened, not weak, certain. He crouched slightly in front of Eli, keeping his voice steady. "Can you stand?" Eli nodded weakly. "I think so." Sophia helped him carefully to his feet. He wobbled. Gabriel's hand came down on Eli's opposite shoulder, large, warm, steady. Between the two of them, the boy stabilized. And for the first time since they entered the room, Eli's breathing began to settle. Sophia felt it. The shift, the trust. Her throat tightened unexpectedly. Gabriel's voice lowered. "You're safe now." Simple words, but Eli nodded like he believed him completely. Sophia swallowed hard, because she did too. The first guard cleared his throat, trying to reclaim authority he no longer had. "The elder will want an explanation." Gabriel straightened slowly to his full height. The room seemed to shrink around him. "He'll have one," Gabriel said. The guard hesitated. "And the Panther female?" Gabriel didn't even look at him when he answered. "She's under my protection." The words landed like a dropped blade, unmistakable, final. The guards went very still. Sophia's heart hit once, hard. Gabriel's gaze finally shifted, past them, to her. Something fierce and unyielding burned there now, not just interest, not just curiosity. Decision. His hand lifted and settled at the back of Sophia's shoulder, firm and unmistakably possessive without being forceful. A protective hold, claim adjacent. The contact sent sharp awareness down Sophia's spine. Her Panther surged with fierce approval. The guard swallowed. "That's a serious declaration, Alpha Thorn." Gabriel's thumb pressed once against Sophia's shoulder. Grounding. Intentional. "I'm aware," he said calmly. Silence held. Then the guard stepped back fully, yielding. The balance in the room changed. Sophia felt it in her bones. Gabriel looked down at Eli. "Let's get you somewhere comfortable." Sophia nodded once, already adjusting her hold to support the boy better. Together, they guided him toward the door. No one tried to stop them. No one even tried to speak. The message had landed. Outside the holding room, the corridor felt cooler, quieter. Eli leaned heavily into Sophia's side, his voice small and uncertain. "You're really not mad at me?" Sophia's chest tightened painfully. "No," she said softly. "None of this was your fault." Gabriel walked close on Eli's other side, silent but watchful, his presence a steady wall of protection. When they reached the healer's wing, he finally stopped and looked down at Sophia. His voice dropped low enough that only she could hear. "This is where it changes." Sophia's heart jumped. "What does?" Gabriel's gaze held hers. "Everything." Footsteps sounded at the far end of the corridor. Heavy, purposeful, not friendly. Gabriel's posture sharpened at once. His hand slid more firmly to the center of Sophia's back. Protective. Ready. Sophia's panther lifted with a low warning heat, because something in the air had turned dangerous again, and this time it was coming straight for them. The footsteps slowed as they reached the mouth of the healer's wing. 3 elder guards came into view, not rushing, not shouting, but their expressions were tight with the kind of authority that expected obedience. Gabriel didn't move. His hand remained steady at Sophia's back, warm, firm, like a claim that still felt like protection. Eli shifted nervously between them. One of the guards spoke first. "The elders request the Panther female remain available for questioning." Sophia felt the old, familiar chill slide down her spine. There it was, the part where she was handled, moved, contained. Her panther stirred uneasily. Gabriel didn't even glance at her. His focus stayed locked on the guards. "No," he said. One word. Calm. Absolute. The lead guard stiffened. "That wasn't a suggestion, Alpha Thorn." Gabriel's shoulders squared slightly. "And that wasn't a request." Silence tightened in the corridor. For a moment, Sophia could feel the old pattern trying to snap back into place. Pack suspicion, elder pressure, the expectation that she would step aside and make it easier for everyone. Her fingers curled instinctively. Old habits, old defenses. Then Gabriel's thumb moved once against her back, steady, a silent reminder. Not alone. Something inside Sophia's chest shifted. The guard tried again, more careful now. "The elders are concerned about the trap incident." Gabriel's voice dropped lower. "So am I." A beat. Then clearly and deliberately, he added, "She stays with me," Gabriel said, like he'd already made peace with the fallout. The words landed differently this time. Not just protection, not just interference, a line in the ground. The guards exchanged a long look. They weren't afraid of Gabriel, but they understood exactly what he was saying. Finally, the lead guard exhaled slowly. "The elders won't like this." Gabriel's gaze didn't soften. "They'll survive." Another long pause. Then the guard stepped back, yielding. The air shifted. Immediately. Not surrender. A retreat. For now. For the first time since morning, Sophia felt the pressure around her ease instead of tighten. Gabriel didn't relax. Not until the guards fully withdrew down the corridor. Only then did his hand ease slightly at her back. "Take him in," he said quietly. Sophia nodded once and guided Eli into the healer's room. The older wolf female looked up immediately, relief flashing across her face. "Oh, good. Bring him here. Easy, easy." Sophia helped settle Eli onto the low cot, staying close until the healer took over the bandaging properly. Eli's small fingers caught Sophia's wrist one last time. "You're staying, right?" he asked softly. The question hit deeper than it should have. Sophia glanced toward the doorway. Gabriel was still there, still watching, still steady as stone. Her panther settled low and warm inside her chest. For the first time in a long time, not braced for impact, Sophia looked back at Eli. "I'm not going far," she promised. Satisfied, the boy finally relaxed back into the pillows. The healer gave Sophia a grateful nod, then gently shooed her toward the door so she could work. Sophia stepped back into the corridor. Gabriel was exactly where she expected him to be, waiting, watching, certain. The moment the door closed behind her, the quiet between them shifted. Not tense, not sharp, something deeper. Sophia crossed her arms loosely, though the motion lacked its usual bite. "You just made things very complicated," she said. Gabriel's mouth curved faintly. They already were. Sophia let out a soft breath despite herself. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Gabriel stepped closer. Slow, deliberate, giving her time to move away. She didn't. His hand lifted and settled lightly at her wrist again. Familiar now, steady and warm. Sophia's pulse jumped. Her Panther leaned into the contact without hesitation. Gabriel's voice dropped. "You're still here." It wasn't surprise. It was quiet satisfaction. Sophia lifted her chin slightly. "I told you," she said, softer now. "I don't know if I'm running yet." Something fierce and warm flashed in Gabriel's eyes. "Good," he said. His thumb moved once, slow, along the inside of her wrist. The touch sent a low, steady warmth through Sophia's chest. Not the sharp panic from earlier. Something calmer, something choosing. She studied his face for a long moment. Then, carefully, she turned her hand in his grip and laced her fingers with his. Gabriel went very still, not shocked, just intensely focused. The air between them tightened in a completely different way now. Chosen, not forced. Sophia met his gaze steadily. "You don't get to do this halfway, Alpha," she said quietly. Gabriel's grip tightened around her fingers, firm, certain. "I don't do anything halfway." For the first time since he'd walked into her territory, Sophia believed him. Her Panther settled fully, a deep, quiet warmth spreading through her chest. Not fear, not pressure. Home. Gabriel stepped close enough that his shoulder brushed hers, a protective line already forming out of instinct. "Get some rest tonight," he said quietly. "Tomorrow, we deal with the rest of them." Sophia exhaled slowly. For once, she didn't feel like she was standing alone in the middle of the storm. She gave a small nod. Then, without pulling her hand from his, she let him guide her down the quieter corridor. Behind them, the healer's room stayed calm. Ahead of them, the territory was already shifting. And for the first time in her life, Sophia wasn't the only one ready for the fight. Sophia's gaze drifted once, down the corridor toward the outer paths. Somewhere in this territory, someone had set steel in the dirt and called it caution. And they were still breathing inside these borders. Gabriel's hand tightened around hers once, slow and certain. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "we find them." Please subscribe to Always and Forever Love Stories for more powerful alpha romances and unforgettable fated mates.